Hello and welcome. I'm Camila Lemia and this is Rappler Talk. Today we are joining the man of the hour, Opposition Senator Antonio Trillanes IV, here in his office where he has been staying for the past 10 days. He is wary of a warrantless arrest by the military after President Rodrigo Duterte ordered the revocation of his amnesty. Trillanes has questioned it before the Supreme Court. The case is still pending, although he failed to get an immediate relief via a temporary restraining order. No arrest warrants have been issued against him yet, as cases are still pending with the two Makati City regional trial courts. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Thank you, Camille.
Sir, you've been here for the past 10 or so days. Can you share us your experience? How does it feel to be here in your office?
Well, the first few days were quite an adjustment for me. It's a totally different environment. I have this thing about routine, so I had to establish that first. But after 10 days, more or less, things have normalized in a way.
Sir, many people are asking, why do what you're doing? I mean, why continue to speak up against the president? Since the elections, you have been doing that. What's your motivation and what pushes you to do that?
A lot of people have been asking me that same question because it's really quite easy to just pledge your support to somebody like Duterte and have an easy life, right? But for some reason, I just can't do that. There's this inner sense of duty that compels me to do what I'm doing.
Sir, what do you think will make you stop?
Probably they'll have to put me away physically, either killing me or isolating me from the rest of the world.
Do you fear that you'll get killed?
I don't fear death per se, but it's just one of the scenarios that they have, and in fact, we have already validated that a few times that Duterte really wants me killed. So it's there on their table of options to get rid of somebody like me.
Sir, can you take us back to the time when you were in jail for 7 years? What was it like to live in jail for that long period of time?
As I mentioned, you don't prepare for the long haul. It's impossible. You just make yourself feel depressed. You'll just take it one day at a time. I believe the most important thing is to establish your routine. Once you've done that, then days go by much faster than you think. So it can take you, well, we didn't really notice it, but we breached that 7-year mark, just doing the everyday thing. And I believe that's also one of the reasons why our companions, at least some of them, defected to the other side and by picking the easier route. It's because they took pity on themselves, then they got so depressed thinking about how long this could be and how much time is being wasted in jail. But in our case, we established that routine, then we made it a bit more productive. I was able to finish my master's degree while in detention. So that keeps your mind off your specific situation.
So, was that time in jail, was that the factor to bakit nagkaroon ng factions inside Magdalo? Because as you said, some decided to, go the easy way.
Yes, and I don't blame anyone because all of us would have a different threshold for pain and suffering. And it helped, of course, that our support system is quite strong. well, there's the family, our friends and extended family. So uh, those those support systems could help strengthen you and help you face the day-to-day challenges.
Sir, can you tell us the cause of the rift between your group and Nicanor Faeldon and his camp?
Well, Faeldon has no camp. It is Faeldon by himself, the individual. Um, we noticed early on in detention that somehow his um, was this overall psychological was this outlook is different from the rest of us. Primarily, since he's not a graduate of the Philippine Military Academy, um, he has a different way of looking at things. So eventually, um, when he decided to escape from detention, that was the final straw because we didn't want him to do that because there is no point in doing that. And we even mentioned that he should be concerned about the custodians who were guarding us, and they would feel the brunt of the punishment for the deception that he made. And in the first place, we were the ones who cultivated that good relationship with our custodians. So true enough, when he escaped, his custodian or the person assigned to him was detained with us and even attempted to commit suicide.
Sir, how different was the climate back in 2003 when you led the Oakwood mutiny and now, moving forward to the current political situation under the Duterte administration?
The situation is so much different in the sense that we believe that now we have a better appreciation or grasp of the political environment and the way to communicate with the general public. Whereas before, we would think and talk like soldiers, and we tend to assume that every word that we're saying is understood by the general public. But apparently, that's not how public communications work. So that is a very important, or that's a very big difference that I can see.
Sir, how would you differentiate the Arroyo administration from the Duterte administration?
The
Or may difference ba?
well, the basic difference is the Arroyo administration somehow drew the line into that mass murder um, mass murder option. So you can say whatever you want about the Arroyo administration, that it is corrupt, that it cheated the elections, destroyed or compromised democratic institutions. But she never ordered the mass killing of Filipinos. So in that sense, she's a bit better than Duterte, and that's saying a lot because the Arroyo administration was one of the worst regimes this country ever had.
Sir, you started your political career in jail. Are you ready or are you prepared to end it, so to speak, also in jail if this pushes through?
Well, if that's how fate would turn out for me, then I have no other choice but to embrace it. And it's also one key to the survival during that 7-year imprisonment. It's about embracing what fate has given you. if you deny it, if you um, turn away from it, the more difficult it will be. But if you embrace it, uh, the soonest, then the sooner you'll be able to adjust.
Sir, I've been following you as a senator for years now, and clearly you are not afraid of standing up to superiors or to the majority or those in power. There's GMA, there's former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, there's former Senate President Coco Pimentel, President Duterte, and even the majority senators when it comes to legislation and issues and investigations. Why is that so? Where do you get the courage to do that?
I believe it's the anchored on my strength of conviction. If I believe that something is right, then I will definitely fight for it. And if I see that something is wrong, then I will do everything I can to oppose it. That's just how I am wired. I would like to believe that it's unusual or out of the ordinary. I believe every person was built in the same way, and I don't know why I do things differently, apparently, from the others.
Sir, when you were growing up, meron bang instances na you also stood by your principles even against superiors or even against a group of people? May ganun po ba nga?
I've been trying to reflect on that, growing up in school. I would like to believe na I'm as ordinary or as average as you can get. And I just don't know where this thing is coming from. Probably it started when I studied in the Philippine Military Academy. There's certain values given or implanted into your system, which is very much different from who I was before that. But I really don't know. I really can't pick a specific incident.
Sir, can you tell us about that UP-NCPAG
Yeah.
thesis that you did on corruption in the Navy or in the military?
Mhm.
And what prompted you to think of that topic, to pursue that topic?
Okay. There's this class. There's this research class we had when I was taking up my master's degree, and we were trying to pick topics for that research paper, and the research topics that I was giving to my professor somehow looked pale or stale rather. But eventually, when I reflected on my career and all those instances of corruption that I encountered, I realized that it could be a good subject for a research paper. So that's how I started.
Hindi kayo natakot at that time to do something controversial or to dig into something na alam nyong mainit?
Hindi naman kasi I believe it is something that bothered a lot of officers, although they cannot say it publicly, but you can sense that they want it to be reformed. So I just collated all these um, incidents of corruption, then I presented it as my research paper. And it turned out that I made 2 research papers on corruption.
Sa isang research paper, dalawa yung nagawa ninyo?
No, 2 subjects. So the quantitative research subject was also about corruption in the procurement system of the armed forces.
Sir, when did your passion for fighting corruption start?
Probably when I became chairman of the honor committee of the Philippine Military Academy. So as the chairman, I was the head of the cadet body that is in charge of inculcating the cadet honor system. And in doing so, you cement your own core values. That's quite difficult to to undo.
Sir, now let's talk about the arrest order or Proclamation 572 of President Duterte. You've been saying that there is still a standing arrest order from the President to the AFP. How credible is that source given that Defense Chief Delfin Lorenzana already assured you through media reports that there will be no arrest without a warrant?
Well, the proof is the security forces outside the Senate premises.
Isn't it normal po ba, sir, na course of procedure na may
No.
magbantay dyan ng mga soldiers and military?
No, we have the regular Senate security with the augmentation from the PSPG of the PNP. But the police forces outside the Senate premises, that's unusual. And as I mentioned yesterday, when when my car went out to fill up for gasoline, motorcycle riders tailed my vehicle, and we were able to document it, and that's proof that there's something sinister behind these public pronouncements to draw me out. So that led us, to include my lawyers, to decide to just wait for the final resolution of the courts.
Which courts? The Makati City Regional Trial Courts.
Yes.
So, sir, bale you're saying na you can stay here until matapos talaga yung issue, so that could take months?
Probably not months. It would be resolved in the next few weeks.
Some say, sir, you're being paranoid, or yung mga Duterte supporters and critics are even saying it's a media stunt. How do you address that allegations or claims?
I'm not doing all of these things for them. If they have a plan, I'm not going to make it easy for them to actualize their plan. Okay? We're doing things because we believe it's the right thing to do. And I can understand that my presence here in the Senate is a constant source of annoyance for Mr. Duterte and his followers. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So I just don't mind them. They can say whatever they want. But at the end of the day, what the hell do they care about where I plan to sleep tonight or the next few nights, right? Just live and let live.
Sir, so far so good in the two Makati courts. What can you say about the two judges? Are they fair and independent, and what do you expect from them, the courts?
Well, I submitted myself to the judicial process. As to the character and integrity of these judges, I presume I'm working on the assumption that they are judges because they have attained certain levels of competence and the integrity. So that's the assumption now. But this is the test. They can show to the whole world that the Philippine judicial system is still working despite having a president like Duterte, or they could show that Duterte has control over everything. So the answer to that question is in their hands.
Pero sir, do you think hindi titigil si President Duterte, especially si Solicitor General Calida, until you're in jail?
Well, yes, they won't stop because right now they're obsessed with seeing me in jail, and they see this as a the test of their power. If they fail, then it would show that the presidency of Duterte has drastically weakened, and that he cannot bully every institution into submission anymore. But I expect that from them. They shouldn't stop, because I wouldn't stop also in
Tul-
running after them.
So tuloy lang the investigations into the security contracts of Kalida.
And aside from that, I will be pursuing the ICC cases and every opportunity to make Duterte and company accountable for their actions. Definitely habulin ko.
So sir, give us a scenario. What if one of the RTCs issue a warrant of arrest? Will you surrender like what Senator De Lima did, or papahabol ka sa kanila?
No, I will submit myself. I've decided to submit myself to the judicial process. Then, whichever way it goes, doon na yun. But as I mentioned, this episode of mine is not about my personal freedom or not, but actually this is the ultimate battle for our democracy. Because what started this was a proclamation of Mr. Duterte to have me arrested despite the fact I didn't commit any crime. Precisely because I availed of the amnesty, and with an amnesty given to you, all your crimes have been extinguished. So technically, I didn't commit all of those crimes attributed to me on record. So here comes Duterte on his mere say so is ordering the armed forces, the security forces, to put me in jail. So if we allow that, if the courts will allow that, then I believe our democracy is over. So this is about that.
Sir, the Senate has been your sanctuary for a week now. Minority senators and many of the majority senators are supporting you. Why do you think that's the case?
Because I believe they sense the danger as well. They feel that Mr. Duterte overreached in this particular proclamation, and they feel that if they allow it, then anybody could be next. So I credit the collective wisdom of the Senate for making a stand and not recognizing this proclamation.
Did you ever think you'll get this kind of support from them, considering you're a vocal dissenter and sometimes involved, parang nakakaaway mo rin yung mga ibang senador? Did you ever expect na you'd get this much support from them?
In a way, yes. But that impression about marami kong kaaway, that's the public perception. But behind the scenes, a lot of these senators, both in the minority and the majority, are actually my friends. So, and these things cannot be seen publicly, or aren't seen publicly. But these things could factor in, and it helps in passing pieces of legislation. But apparently, the Duterte administration miscalculated that.
Sir, I also followed the events leading to and following Senator De Lima's arrests. And then it was evident that senators weren't as supportive as they are now with you. Why do you think that is the case? What changed between last year to now?
Probably the political environment, because last year Duterte was extremely popular, but I don't think so now. And also, there are personal animosities and grudges involved with Senator Laila De Lima and some of the senators, because some of them were legal targets, so to speak.
As
of,
DOJ Secretary.
yes. So, yon. With me, wala namang ganun.
Harry Roque critics and Duterte supporters are saying that you are milking this situation for your benefit. What do you say to them?
Well, they're probably right in the first part that I'm trying to milk this episode, but not for my benefit, but for the benefit of our democracy and our institutions. So, and I will continue to do that, because if I win in this episode, then our democracy won in essence, because this is going to be the first instance wherein the institutions pushed back against the uh, the will and authority of Mr. Duterte and actually won. So that's why there's so much at stake here.
But realistically speaking, do you think there is a resolution to this problem other than you going to jail? May iba pa ba, or prison is the only answer for them?
As far as they're concerned, that's the end as far as Duterte is concerned. So, yung pride niya at stake dito, parang gusto niya akong ipakulong and it has to happen. Yun ang gusto niya, kaya nagwawala siya, no? Nanggigigil siya. But that's precisely why that shouldn't happen, kasi pag napigilan yon, makikita natin na tapos na si Mr. Duterte. He's now a lame duck.
Pero,
hindi na umuubra yung pagsisindak niya sa mga institusyon.
Pero ikaw, sir, personally, are you still hopeful with the process after everything that's been said and done to other opposition figures?
You know what? A lot of my friends and even people from the opposition, they have labeled me somehow as the optimist. And because I see a silver lining, as I see hope in dire situations. And this is one such situation wherein I see hope.
And what's that silver lining that you're referring to?
Well, the fact that this episode opened the eyes of a lot of people about the true character and nature of Mr. Duterte. And a lot of people really turned from being Duterte supporters now to at least part of the opposition. And that's an encouraging sign. And at the same time, I am hopeful of the strength of our institutions, and so far it's holding. Remember, 10 days ago, Duterte wanted me in prison, but but here, right now, I'm still out. So it only shows that the institutions are fighting back, and to include the media. The media somehow made sure that Mr. Duterte will not have an easy path into all of this, and that's a good thing.
Sir, you've led exposés about Duterte's family and allies. How reliable is that information? Is it hearsay, first-hand information, second-hand information?
Okay, let's just put it this way. You wouldn't want to confront somebody like Duterte with a lie or with an unreliable information. When you decide to confront somebody like Duterte, you have to be standing on solid ground. And that's what I have been doing since day one. And that's also the reason why he refuses to confront these issues. He continues to evade them, right? And he uses his power, his influence to stop investigations because they know that I'm telling the truth.
More cases will surely be filed against you. How do you plan to face these?
Just like during the time of Gloria Arroyo, I confronted at least 12 cases during that span, and somehow I survived all of them.
How?
Legally, by submitting to the process, because they're just good at filing cases, but once it's tried in court, they're not able to come up with the evidence. So that's uh, that's where I'm coming from, and I have good lawyers who really test their legal theories and evidence, and we always come out victorious so far.
Sir, do you think House Speaker Gloria Arroyo has something to do with what you're experiencing now, your ordeal now?
Based on our information, no. Um, she has no part in all of this. This is just Duterte and Mr. Calida. Everybody else who seem to be supporting these two are just being team players.
Sir, I see how you deal with the president's attacks against you, but I think 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I really noticed that something changed in you when he implicated your mother. We really don't see you like that na natitrigger pag ikaw lang yung involved. But this time, when he implicated your 84-year-old mother, something's different. Why?
Well, because of the state now, the physical state now of my mother. Um, as I mentioned, she has an advanced stage of Parkinson's disease. She's not uh, well. Her health has deteriorated physically. She's frail and everything, and she doesn't deserve that. And I just feel that if you have an issue with me, then stick with me. You wouldn't want me to dig into your family as well, because I'm not doing that. But it's just um, par for the course for these people. So I expected it to be as foul as it could get. But I'll just roll with the punches.
But what can you, how will you answer the allegation nga that your mother daw was a supplier in the Navy at the time daw that your father was also in the service?
Well, in the first place, regardless whether that is true or not, what does that have to do with me? And were they able to say any specific crime that that my mother committed? Or is there even an allegation about it? But personally, I believe that that's not true. The, the way I remember things, because my father retired in 1988. I was just on my first year in college, so I it's totally irrelevant, really.
Sir, I keep asking you, even the past days, past months, if you fear anything. And you always say you fear nothing. But that's for yourself. But do you fear something for your family or for your friends, for your loved ones?
Well, definitely, I have my own fears, but I'm not about to reveal that publicly, because it could help my enemies and make me vulnerable. But for myself, I don't fear anything.
Basta ikaw okay ka.
Mhm.
Sir, let's go to the 2019 elections.
Yeah.
How is the opposition helping you now?
The opposition has been very, very supportive. The vice president visited me. The minority senators have been fighting for me at different forums in the media, and the civil society groups, the religious groups. So they've been very, very helpful and supportive.
Has former President Noynoy Aquino reached out to you?
Yes, well, not directly, but publicly, he made very categorical statements about the validity of the amnesty he gave to us. And that's a big thing. And I'm very, very grateful for all of them.
How do you think this incident involving you, the proclamation of President Duterte, will affect the opposition's chances in 2019? And tingin mo ba may chance against the administration?
I believe this is the turning point. This particular issue would haunt the candidates of Mr. Duterte and help the opposition slate win in the 2019 elections.
You're that hopeful, sir, against yung mga popular names na napapabalita under PDP laban?
Yes, I'm very hopeful because I experienced that myself. Back in 2007, I was one of those unknowns against very popular candidates, but we won. Why? Because of the overall political environment that was turning against the administration. And it's similar to what's happening now. Remember, the context that we're in is in these times of runaway inflation rates, food shortages, and rising cost of living in general. All of these things would be factored in because at the end of the day, the voting public gave Mr. Duterte the chance to prove that he could match the myth that they propagated during the elections. But 2.5 years had passed, and he basically destroyed the country that we used to be proud of.
Sir, one of the criticisms against the opposition is that kalat-kalat, hindi organized. But now, what can you say? Parang nagbago na ba yun? Has it improved? Or same?
Well, that's the impression publicly. But the past few weeks, the opposition has organized and united under the banner of Vice President Leni Robredo. There is no other faction. So she's leading the way, and it's about to go public within the next few weeks.
The coalition, the opposition coalition.
So we may not have that chance before to show the unity of the opposition, but you'd see that in the next few weeks.
Next few weeks, meaning September 21?
No. During the presentation of candidates by VP Leni.
Kailan po ito, sir?
I think it's scheduled on the first week of October.
Sir, what is your role in forming the opposition slate?
I'm just part of the coalition, so we have this advisory council that vets the prospective candidates and recommend those candidates to that shortlist.
So, part ka ng advisory council?
Yes.
So, you also talk to prospective candidates?
No, we vet them from the outside first, then we reach out to them individually, personally. So, yes, I did talk to some of the prospective candidates.
You're a last termer. What are your plans after stepping down?
I plan to continue my advocacy work. I'm not about to run away or hide from the public. I'll continue with my advocacies.
But what will be your profession? Will you be a teacher? Will you continue teaching?
Well, there are some options available. I have yet to sit down and consider any of them because things are very fluid still. So I'm keeping my focus on the here and now, which is fighting for our democracy.
Pero even if wala ka na sa office, is it safe to say hindi mo tatantanan si President Duterte?
Oo naman. You can't let him be, because he will win. And as I mentioned, there's so much at stake here. At the end of the day, it's our country and my children's country. So if I um, surrender or not take part in the fight for our freedom and democracy, then he'll win.
Sir, you ran for VP in 2016. Why?
Primarily, it's the decision of the group. Um, we feel that it was time to offer our brand of governance to the public, and it's just unfortunate that the people um, see it saw it differently, but I have no regrets because the better candidate won in VP Lenny.
What insights did you learn from that campaign and that whole process?
Um, there's so many insights there and so many lessons learned, but we factored in all of these insights and lessons learned, and hopefully what's this make the necessary adjustments for future electoral exercises.
Lessons maybe about politics, dealing with politicians, anything that you can think of?
Mhm. And how the game is basically played, which is so dirty. And we're not planning to play that kind of game anywhere in the future. We want to continue to do things the way it should be done, and hopefully the people will leave that political game they're used to and embrace this this thing that we're promoting.
Sir, it seems the idealism of the younger Antonio Trillanes is still here, despite everything that happened to you.
Definitely, I feel that. Although I can say that I'm I'm a bit more mature and I'm a bit wiser than the Navy lieutenant who went out during Oakwood.
In what way?
Um, we have a wider perspective and a different grasp of the political environment. But our desires for change have remained the same.
Sir, are you running for president in 2022?
No. The decision of the opposition is to unite under VP Lenny Robredo. There shouldn't be any confusion or division. All of us should be focused on that because we need to regain this country from the clutches of evil that we have now.
Sir, message to your critics saying this is all for show, that you should stop the PR stunts, and that you should get out of the Senate hotel.
Sa akin is siguro just enjoy the show, right? And kumaga, if manggigil sila, mainis sila, then I have partly achieved the objective. If I can add as much stress sa kanila, then well and good. But to be serious about it, I'm using this platform to convey to the people the true story of our fight for freedom, justice, and democracy.
Message to your supporters.
Well, I am eternally grateful to all those who have conveyed their support, all those who have prayed, family, friends, political leaders, all of them. Um, Without them, I wouldn't be this strong. And precisely, I am this strong because of them.
And most especially for your family. What's your message to them?
Well, first of all, I'm really very sorry that I had to subject them, or they had to be subjected to this episode again. It's difficult for everyone, but we have roles to play in life, and we're doing this for the greater good of our country and people. So we'll just have to continue to pray for strength that will go through all of this.
Thank you very much, Senator Trillanes, for joining us today.
Thank you, Camille.
And that was Senator Antonio Trillanes IV in the middle of political and legal battles, which may yet turn into a constitutional crisis. The senator has repeatedly said he won't succumb to political pressures, but in the coming days, we will see what's in store for him and whether or not the president will succeed in sending a second opposition senator to jail. I'm Camila Lamia. Thank you for watching Rappler Talk.